All right. Imagine this. You're in your last class of the day, math. You pull out your notebook to take notes as your teacher teaches the lesson. Today, you're learning something new, and it is important you pay attention because you're expecting a pop quiz on this information. All of a sudden, your phone buzzes, and instantly, your train of thought is altered as you quickly turn down the volume in hopes no one noticed. However, the thought still lingers in your mind. What was that notification for? This is really dangerous because now you're 6 steps behind on problem 12 and you're having a really hard time keeping up with your notes. Before you know it, bzz, your phone vibrates on the table. This time, curiosity takes over you as you quickly glance at your home screen. You realize someone liked your Instagram post and even commented asking where you got your jeans. What harm would it be to send a quick response? I mean, it only takes like 5 seconds, right? Well, you know better than that and you try to ignore it, but you can't help but wonder, which pair of jeans was she talking about? I mean, there were like 3 different posts with jeans in them, and like, was it the ones I liked better? Or wait, did it have the holes in it that I was supposed to cover up for pep? And I don't even remember. And at this point, your attention is completely shifted from long division to Forever 21, and there is no way you're passing your quiz on Thursday. This right here is a prime example of how technology affects our attention. We are surrounded by distractions all day that cause us to lose focus easily. We, in turn, fail to remain on task as we are constantly accustomed to random topic changes and sudden attention diversion. Believe it or not, people haven't always been on their phones 24/7. In fact, I bet most of your parents didn't even have a cell phone growing up. Now, people can't even imagine having to read an atlas for directions or being stuck to the wall by a phone cord whenever they want to make a call. Today, technology has skyrocketed to the point that we have unlimited service pretty much anywhere we go. Throughout the speech, when I discuss technology, I will be specifically talking about the everyday usage, such as cell phones, the internet, video games, television, social media, etc. It seems there's always a new app that winds itself up into our everyday lives. For example, when I mention social media, I will specifically be talking about the common social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, or Snapchat. One specific platform I will discuss is TikTok, which is an increasingly popular app that consists of 15-second videos that you can mindlessly and endlessly swipe through at your leisure any time of the day, whenever you feel like it. We see technology to be a rising issue in our world today, as the shortening of attention span among many people increases, especially in those introduced at younger ages. Since technology has spiked so drastically in the past several years, we come to question what is ultimately being affected by the onslaught of these new technological advancements. In my speech, I will show that electronic entertainment has effectively succeeded in shortening our attention. Concerning the issue of whether technology and social media shortens our attention, we must first ask these questions. What are some of the effects it has on our lives? What are some of the consequences, and how does this affect us as Christians? There are plenty of real-life examples of technology's effects on our brain's grasp of attention. For starters, our brains are intricately and uniquely designed by God. They are wired to read, to hold, and to spit out information at our beck and call. This can be both beneficial and detrimental to the way that we live our lives. Our brains are a phenomenon when it comes to how we as humans are able to think and react in certain situations. Catherine Price, an award-winning science journalist, states, "Our brains both prefer and are programmed to seek out and be distracted by new information. It is no wonder that every app has ads and obnoxious notification reminders." Speaking of which, did I even silence my phone before my speech? Though our brains are programmed in this way, it is not implied that this is always the best thing for us. Distraction and new information, not in a controlled manner, can actually harm our ability to grasp anything deeper than surface level. Social media and technology have advanced so drastically over time, making smart alterations that inevitably grasp the user's attention, trapping them in this technological universe. This is important to keep in mind as we do not often realize the effect that our phones have on our everyday lives. You could be writing an essay for Compton-Lit, and then boom, within a matter of seconds, you're scrolling on TikTok trying to find the latest dance trend. Wall Street journalist Julie Jargon says how emerging research suggests that watching short, fast-paced videos makes it harder for kids to sustain activities that do not offer instant and constant gratification. Now, don't get me wrong, I love learning new TikTok dances with my friends and family, but once again, this just goes to show how social media never fails to win the fight for our undivided attention because of its numerous distractions. It's crazy how even the smallest and most boring things on the internet have the ability to hold our attention better than the things that we all know we should be doing. One minute you'll be looking up a dinner recipe, and the next minute you'll be watching a video tutorial on how to cut your bangs at home, even though you have absolutely zero intention in ever cutting your bangs or even having bangs in the first place. I mean, come on, I know we've all been there. It's not just me, right? While technology can be a great tool, it has some devastating consequences to our lives. One example is shown through the effects that it has on personal relationships with our peers, our family, and our friends. In one of our studies, Catherine Price shows that Americans check their phones about 47 times per day. For people between the ages of 18 and 24, the average is 82 times. Collectively, this is more than 9 billion phone checks a day. Wow, that's crazy. And each one of those phone checks diverts our attention from what matters the most in the moment. We put our priority on the virtual world instead of paying attention to those in front of us. We think we can multitask in conversations, which inevitably decreases their meaningfulness. Instead of being fully engaged with who we are with in the moment, we treat the conversation like everything else we do in life, constantly switching from one topic or task to another. These subtle nonverbal cues communicate to whom we are with that our attention is divided and that we are not giving them our full attention. This could give a false sense of closeness, which is also seen when people solely rely on social media to stay connected. All of this because our minds have been taught and trained to be able to shift our focus and attention as fast as lightning. As Steffens wrote, cell phones may be a good way to keep in touch with a large circle of friends, but they can be a barrier to meaningful conversations. Slowly, we settle for surface-level relationships instead of being intentional and putting away our distractions to spend time with those in the moment. Lost attention plays a part in decreasing our ability to practice self-discipline and maintain perseverance. Two important character traits we need to lean on in order to get through some of life's toughest times. Because we're so used to switching tasks in our mind as soon as we become like complacent or bored, we don't hesitate to do the same thing when we want to give up. Catherine Price wrote, "We reach for our phones to help us avoid something unpleasant such as boredom or anxiety. We have found comfort in our phones, in turn letting it win the fight for our attention. Eventually, we lose this ability to stay engaged." I mean, I know all of you have thought about it, if not actually checked your phone sometime during my speech so far. And now that I brought that up, you're all thinking about it again, but that's okay. I guess I'll forgive you. Another consequence that affects our personal relationships that is seen from diverted attention is the increase in stress and anxiety. Steffens writes, "The continuous loop of receiving, reading, and responding to alerts creates an endless loop of involvement and a fear of missing out. FOMO is very real, and it affects us even when we do not realize it." Though the fear of missing out does not directly distract our attention, the anxiety it produces is enough to keep us distracted, preoccupied, and unfocused. As Steffens explained in his study, students felt anxious about missing something important and most likely more stressed as now they feel this pressure to maintain this pace of responding to notifications and participating and keeping up with the latest trends. Notifications create this endless loop of distraction. As soon as we text someone back, even if we silence the notification, that text does warrant a text eventually, and that will be distracting in the next moment. As you feel caught in this cycle, you may not end up enjoying real life because you are so unfocused due to this shortened attention that your brain has adapted. Rarely can what's on our screens provide the same satisfaction and fulfillment as what is in front of us. So, how can we see this applied from a biblical standpoint? Well, surprisingly, technology's effect on our attention takes a huge role on our lives as Christians. For starters, it can not only affect our relationship with other Christians, but with God himself, and this is really not good. This is why, as Christians, we need to learn how to minimize and effectively use technology for the benefit of living for the Lord. Sometimes we get so distracted with our everyday social media updates and all the notifications and reminders all day long that we forget to spend time with the Lord. During an interview with my youth minister, Nicole Rulene, she reminded me how we have to remember not to kick God out of our day to spend more time on our phones. This is majorly important as we tend to push our tasks and even God aside sometimes in order to spend more time on our electronic devices. We know that whenever we place anything higher than the value of God, even as small as a cell phone, it is an idol. And in Exodus 20, God clearly says, "You shall have no other gods before me." Valuing time over your phone would indeed, valuing time on your phone over God would indeed be placing your phone above God, making your phone an idol. We need to be conscious of how we spend time on our phones. Spending time on our devices is not necessarily the problem, but the issue is when we value this electronic use over spending time with God. Nicole also mentioned how you should never multitask Jesus. Your time should not have to be split between your phone and the Lord. This reminds us of the verse Matthew 6:24, which says, "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other." If your phones are taking away our attention so much to the point that it is altering our relationship with our Creator, there's definitely a deeper issue at hand. We also cannot forget how easily our attention can be shifted from God to earthly idols because of how easily technology has made it possible for us to access anything our heart desires. This is extremely dangerous because all the temptations of the world are at the tips of our fingers. It is scary how we could be reading a devotional one moment on our phones and then an ad pops up and it completely diverts our attention and alters our relationship with the Lord. Technology has manipulatively captivated our attention and in turn slowly separated us from God. Now, some say that technology actually helps increase our attention span. For example, Casey Schwam, a biology professor and researcher, says, "Our minds are adaptive systems constantly reorganizing and refocusing our mental facilities in order to suit the environment." Therefore, of course, the brain's ability to adapt and refocus on new topics would from the outside look like a negative aspect on the effect of humans' attention span. However, it actually shows how human brains were created to set attention on different things depending on the situation. Social media is becoming a main contribution to the upbringing of the lives of the future. Schwam continues on to say that contrary to popular opinion, it shows that attention spans have actually improved. For example, habitual video gamers have demonstrated better attentional abilities than non-players, and non-players who started playing video games began to show the same improvements. While this overall rise in technology shortens the attention span of teenagers all around the world, the advancement of video games proves some benefits to the attention span. While this may be true in specific instances such as gaming, how would this carry on to real life? And this is the root issue because gaming is not the same as everyday phone usage. Our bodies were made to be able to focus on things that we find interesting. While it may appear that our attention is increasing because of this, overall, it is slowly deteriorating over time. Steffens notes that researchers have found that heavy cell phone use is chemically rewiring the brain, producing chemicals that slow down our brain and suppressing the chemicals that speed it up. In short, our phones are physically changing our brain's functioning, slowing us down to the point that hardly anything holds our attention at all. In summary, it is really important for us to understand and acknowledge the significance that technology has on our attention, as we seem to so easily forget how dangerous it is to our lives. We explored how social media grasps our attention within seconds, and then we moved on to the consequences and how it affects our relationships with people. Finally, we wrapped up with how to tackle this issue biblically as Christians. So, the big question I know all of you have been waiting to hear: how can we avoid this detrimental effect of technology on our attention? Well, we know that ultimately technology is affecting us every day, positively and negatively, and with this newfound knowledge that we all knew but just didn't really want to admit to knowing, we can try to limit ourselves to the attention-diverting habits. Now, okay. Will that stop us from watching DIY slime videos and stalking our friends' Instagram and Facebook profiles? Most probably, definitely not. However, we can take precautions on how to proceed with this knowledge. Even setting a simple reminder to stay on task or setting a timer to keep yourself focused for periods of time could keep you less distracted and build up your ability to hold your attention. Not to mention, screen time is a great way to keep an eye on how much you are actually on your phone. I mean, you might actually be surprised by the results you find. Obviously, it is impossible to throw all our phones away and never use technology again. But if we're not careful, technology might just take over our lives, completely closing us off to the world, to people, and to God. Next time, instead of answering your phone with no knowledge of the greater effects it would have on your math quiz grade, take what you've learned today and do your tutors a favor by silencing your phone before class, and even when you study at home. That way, you feel free from any distractions and preserve your attention as much as possible. You deserve that A. Oh, and by the way, my minions have caught about, 51 phone checks this time during my speech. We even caught you sneaky ones who thought we wouldn't get caught. Now let that sink in. Thank you. All right. Any questions?
Yes. So you've been working on this since quarter one. How would you say learning about this has affected the way that you use your phone?
So you're saying how has working on this thesis helped me realize how I should manage the time on my phone? Okay. So I was expecting this question. I would probably say I should say it helped a lot, but honestly, it's hard because your phone is a part of your everyday life, and I feel like as I've learned more about this during the research of my topic, I have tried my best to flip over my phone when I'm doing something important, or silence my phone, turn off notifications, whatever it has to do, just to keep it. And even sometimes I'll go plug it in a charger in a different room, so at least I have a reason to keep it in there, you know. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yes.
Now, how many times should a person check their phone during a day?
So your question is, how many times should a person answer their phone a day? Oh, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that wasn't necessarily in my research, but I don't know, just a healthy amount. As long as you don't overcheck it, and as long as that doesn't prevent you from doing something you should be doing. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Cole.
What is your average screen time?
Okay, hold on. The question is, what's my average screen time? So, do you want for today or?
Yes, for today.
Okay, hold up. We're just trying to find this here.
What about Tuesday, Skylar?
Tuesday? Tuesday? Okay, right now it's 3 hours, but the day hasn't really started. We'll leave it at that. Any other questions? Yes, Lauren. Oh, okay, great question. Her question was, what made me choose this topic? Well, actually, this is a funny story. So at the beginning of the class, Miss Towner, the beginning of the class of the year, Miss Towner had us pick out some articles for us to go through for the small article presentations where we would make PowerPoints and just kind of practice this kind of thing. And it was actually the second option or something, and I was just oh, that one looks easier. And it was the only one that really wasn't about COVID, so I was okay, I'll do that one. And so I just went with it, and I ended up finding some interesting information, so yeah. Yes, Chase?
Did you say that video games are better than your phone, or vice versa?
So the question is, do I think video games are better than my phone, or vice versa? No, I do not think video games are better than your phone, only because your phone has all these other things, such as the phone, you can actually call or text or maps, or the internet literally has anything else. But I understand what you're saying, how it's supposed to help your attention, but that's kind of wishful thinking behind the gamer's thought. Anyways, other questions? One more. Yes.
How do you think you could help a friend who has the problem of being on the cell phone too
Okay, that's a good question. So how can I help a friend who has a problem with being on their phone too much? Okay, well, this is hard because it's really a personal thing. Like, you can't tell someone, hey, stay off your phone, and they're not going to be like, oh, okay, like, I will. You know, like, most of the time, they're going to want to be on their phone. But I think as long as you set an example and you show them how when you're in something important that you turn off your phone, or, you know, if you just, you can even, like, tell them, be like, hey, you shouldn't be on your phone right now, then at least you've brought it into their mind that they should stay off their phone, but otherwise it's up to them. Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you guys.